Everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm so glad to be here with you all. It's just good to spend some time with my other friends here from Ministry Architects and just spend time with you all. I'm here in Houston and we have a house full because it's an interesting winter period here in Houston. We don't know how to do it. We're a bunch of lightweights, and so that's why I'm so glad to spend time with you all. We just want to welcome you, and I want to introduce a couple of folks that will be kind of sharing some of their ideas and thoughts today. And so first of all, Brandi Kirkland. Brandi, I have no idea where you live. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. I live right outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm originally from Florida, so the cold is new to me as well. And I had a couple winters that were shockingly cold, but I'm used to it now. And I work at a church called Life Point Church. It's a 3-location multi-site church, and I am the global ministry coach for the children's ministry there. And I love doing that. And I also help lead the cohort for Sustainable Children's Ministry with Annette Safstrom. So it's just a party all the time.
Great. All right. And my friend Terrence, tell us about yourself, Terrence.
Hi, everyone. We're glad you're in this space. We're excited to have energy around youth ministry. And so I am Terrence Vickerstaff, and I am from Huntsville, Alabama, a little space city in the north part of the state where we just got some snow on last night. And I am a member of the Pine Grove Missionary Baptist Church, where this is what I do. I help navigate our virtual space, and I help us understand how do we stretch ourselves and do what's new in a new space, but virtually where everybody's connecting. So that's where I am here in Alabama.
Great. And like I said, I'm Stephanie Caro, and I'm here in Houston, and we're going to be talking about the road to Easter, ideas for church ministry, for children's ministry, for youth ministry, family ministry, and especially in a pandemic, because we're not quite out of it yet, folks. Yeah. And so we're going to be sharing with you today some ideas. We've got a couple of announcements to make. First of all, we want you to know that there is another webinar scheduled for March 11th, and it's on volunteer recruiting with Bryant Johnson and Sarah Bailey. So that'll be amazing. And it's my birthday that day, I'm just saying. But we want to give you a few instructions about today. But before I do, also, if you would like some additional information about ideas for Easter and thoughts for Easter in the middle of a pandemic, our own Brandi here wrote a blog, which you will find on ministryarchitects.com. So you can go there and read that blog. I read it this morning. It was awesome. So we just want to give you a few notes about the webinar format today. We're going to spend about a half an hour or so sharing some ideas, some quick ways that you can help people journey through Lent, through Holy Week, to Easter, and maybe even beyond. And then we want to, while we're sharing some ideas, one of the best things is you all just continuing to chat and sharing ideas amongst each other. That's the best part, really. And so you'll also find that since we're using the webinar feature of Zoom, that there is a question and answer space. So feel free to put any questions you have in that space. And after we share for about 30 minutes or so, I'm going to kind of put us on pause for a little bit so that Brandi and Terrence can address those questions and use their smart wisdom, wise mind to share, kind of keep sharing some of their ideas and answer your questions. And so anyway, if there's a question you see and you want to make sure that it gets addressed, you can also upvote that. And so we'll be going over those questions and making sure you get your stuff answered. And so you can't see this guy, but if you see anything that looks like the Ministry Architects logo, that's Sean, and he's producing for us today. So he's the real, well, God's the real mastermind, but Sean's at the left hand of God because, you know, Jesus is on the right side. So anyway, so Sean's producing for us today, and we're glad to have him because he keeps us straight. So, oh, you'll see in the chat room already a link to Brandi's blog. She's so amazing. Okay, so here's what we want to do. Let's get that screen shared there, Sean, and we're going to start with our Road to Easter. Now, one of the things that we would love to hear from all of you is just a little bit of a check-in. So here's the question we're going to use. The question is this: if you could describe the way your ministry is, in this time of the Lenten season, any challenge that you have in your ministry right now, and you could name it after a street or a road or a lane or something like that, any challenge you have to ministry right now during this Lenten season in a pandemic, what would you name that? For an example, I'd call mine Wacky Way, Wackadoodle Way, because my house is crazy right now with family, and one of the few houses that had heat and this kind of thing at the moment. So if you think of anything, go ahead and put that in the chat room, and the question's on the slide. Oh, step-by-step road. That's great.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one, right, Terrence?
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That's from my friend, Pastor Dawn. She's in the Atlanta area.
Okay.
Ooh,
Ever-changing lane.
good one.
Highway to the danger zone.
I
can see the road signs for that one.
Seriously, and the music.
Yes.
Oh,
Pivot place.
yeah, that's great.
Patience place. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine is looking for a new way lane.
Or getting their circle.
Yeah. Yeah.
But sometimes we're just circling.
It's more like a roundabout.
This one hurts me for you, but I get it, because you're not alone in this lonely street right next to Heartbreak Hotel. It is tough.
Yeah. I love it, Miss Virginia. I love it. Throw things at the wall and see what sticks, street.
That's from my friend Virginia.
I think we've all been at that place at some point in time, not just during the pandemic, but prior to the pandemic as well.
Amen, brother. Amen. All right. Well, you can keep posting, and we'll just, let's look at the next slide then. And so we feel your pain. We're all in ministry. We get it. And so let's look at what the agenda is for today. We're going to look a little bit at what we've learned from COVID, some of the things that kind of give us permission in this space between what was the old normal and whatever the new normal is going to look like when we're in this space. What have we learned for ministry? And some ideas for the Lenten season. Then we'll share a few ideas that are COVID safe for Eastertide, maybe even brainstorm Pentecost summer a little bit, because they're right around the corner. And then we're going to focus on question time. And so here are some things that we've learned through COVID. The first thing is that we're not out of it yet. There's light at the end of the tunnel, and you just have to be patient. And we know that the vaccines are getting rolled out, but not yet. And so it's still important, with such high cases and variants coming, that that we stay safe and that we provide events that are COVID safe. And one of the other things we know, that even for churches, and many are still meeting virtually, even for churches that are meeting back and have some in-person worship and events happening, a lot of families this school year now aren't rushing back to be in church in person. Here we are, we're beginning to roll towards the end of February already. It's been a long, arduous school year. And so I'm going to give you a little permission. And if you need to have your pastor call me, because your pastor's going to yell at you when you say, well, Stephanie told me it was okay. Let me tell you this, and you can have your boss call me. I think it's okay for children's youth workers, family ministry people. It's okay to dial down from now through the end of the school year. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about putting on all of this programming, dialing things back up. If you're going back to in person and you're wondering, how do I do Sunday school on Wednesday night? I think it's okay just to do the best you can. Good enough is good enough through the end of the school year, because the families aren't rushing back anyway. One of the other things we've learned from 2020, the pandemic, is that whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not, whether you're technology ready for it or not, online and virtual is here to stay. And it's got its downsides, but it's got its upsides. We've all got stories of people, family that are jumping on to worship with us or do that special children's event just because we offered it virtually. We're going to share a couple ideas in a little bit that you could have, your kids could have their cousins that live out in Seanstown of Portland, Oregon, jump on and participate in that gospel lesson together. And so we know that in a time of pandemic, special events check off a lot of ministry boxes. You can make a special event COVID safe. You can get people to come and be a part of that one-time event a month maybe that aren't ready to jump back in every week. It's easier even now in this time to get volunteers for those special events when they're not ready to jump back in a weekly commitment yet. And then the summer is coming. And I think one of the things we know is that if the vaccine rollout is good by the summer and we're already starting to see cases decrease, that this summer then, I think from now through the summer, we start getting people nodding their heads saying, let's get back to some regular pacing of ministry program with the start of the new year. And so let's go ahead and share some things. Here's the why and how of special events. It helps us keep up some normal. Remember last year, we hadn't quite gone into the full-blown pandemic. I think of March 15th as the day that everybody discovered Facebook Live and they could live stream worship, and Facebook crashed that day because churches everywhere were trying to stream. But we didn't quite know what to do with our annual Easter egg hunt, or the annual Holy Week Palm Parade. But now we know that we can do some of the special events and keep up a sense of normalcy, and it helps people. The other thing, I think, in helping them feel comforted by all the massive changes is that we discovered at Christmas time, we all did some great creative pivoting. And people are going to say, do you mind if we do that again? And I want to challenge you. There isn't one single tradition for Lent, Holy Week, Monday, Thursday, Good Friday, Easter, that you can't find a COVID safe option. And one of the things that then special events brings to the table, and we've all found this, is that we're seeing a lot better cross-pollinating between age levels and ministries. We're doing these special events, and we're going to share a few ideas where the youth can jump in and help in the children's ministry and really feel valuable, where we see women's ministries partnering with children's ministries to do outreach for those that are in nursing homes or senior living care. So, hey, let's go ahead then and let's look at a few ideas for Lent. Now, Terrence, I want you to kind of talk about these first two, because these are things that you kind of shared with us, and I can't wait to hear about them. Tell us more.
So, as a part of the daily Lenten text prayer, as we are helping to continue to teach the disciplines throughout the Lenten season, and to expose our students not only to the discipline, but to how others support them in it. One thing that we have done is we did it when we were in person. We would start these sentence prayers at the beginning of a session or at the end of a session, and everyone has to add something to the prayer. So in the morning, something real simple as that youth or children's director, minister, pastor, whomever that person is designated, shooting out that one sentence and helping everybody else understand from 7 to 7:15, we are going to mass text, and we're going to send out all of these one sentence prayers, and we're going to cover our prayer concerns for that day. It's helping to teach them to pray collectively, but it's also helping to teach them to listen to what others are praying for. And this is something, as you stated, Stephanie, we can cross-pollinate generations, or we can utilize it in one demographic. And someone says, can you give an example? And so if I am the text starter for the morning, normally I'm the text starter, and I will say, dear God, this morning, please bless our students. And I send that out. And so someone else would come in. So Stephanie would come in, bless our teachers and our administrators. And Brandi may come in and say, bless those, just like today, we were dealing with the snowstorms and the weather. Bless those that are homeless. And it continues to go until we have prayed for many things, but is getting these things in the minds of our children, but it's also allowing them to have interaction with others. And so it's just as we would call it, a round robin, or is little small sentence prayers. Sometimes it'll go all day long. Sometimes it, you'll see where that students have given some, not just a sentence prayer, but some serious prayer concerns that they might have for that day. And so when I think it's about to slow down, I will end it out with a culmination of the prayer, and amen. Everyone have a great day. Next day, we're doing the same thing. And most of the times we don't have the same prayer concerns for the next day. And you get to see their growth in prayer, and you get to see their growth as it relates to their compassion and their concern. And so as it relates to pass it on, Lenten Lectio Divina. And so we're supposed to spend time in the Word. And so it is now those members of our small group, our youth group, as we have weekly topics. This week's topic may be that of love, and them having to find and search out a scripture that deals with love, and then sending it out. Again, we're using a lot of texting time, because that's what they're doing, texting time. Or if you choose to do it on social media, you have to make sure that your students have permission to be on social media. Pass it on. It is love, and they're passing scriptures back and forth. And so now it allows them to have had time in the scripture. It allows them to have had time with one another with scripture. And then my job as the moderator of the session, it means to pull it and wrap it all together from the beginning of the week to the end of the week, so that the lesson on love, or the lesson on joy, or whatever it may be for that particular week, culminates with them seeing the cross, seeing the resurrection, and seeing the full power and the work of Jesus Christ.
Mm. Brandi, what about you? If you were going to share a couple of great ideas that families could do, especially for children's ministry, what would you share?
Yeah, I think my whole strategy for this year has centered around the idea that I don't think it's a given that families are just going to come for Easter. And I think, honestly, we've relied on that probably too much for the past number of years. So I'm picturing a frog leaping on lily pads across a pond. So I just want to make sure I'm building momentum and re-engagement from all of the things. And I think special events is key. So something that we're doing that's really simple is we're making a Sunday fun day once a month that we're just hyping the kids up about. And we're gonna fun events, which they don't really add anything above and beyond to what we're already doing. That's unsustainable. We just make it a really hype day. So we had our first one this last Sunday, and it's all going to throw to the next event. So then we have a parents' night out coming, and then we have another Sunday fun day. So everything we do is building up because we know that Easter is the most important thing that we teach all year long, and we can't count on the fact that they're just going to come. Another thing that we're doing is we're sending out snail mail like never before. It's been probably maybe 8 years since I've sent out this much snail mail. We're sending a lot of we loved having you cards, and then a lot of we haven't seen you in a while and we miss you cards. And then we also started a pen pal thing that started at Christmas. It's from a donkey that was at the manger, and it's just a silly little like letter that they get in the mail, and he's following Jesus now. So Jesus just got lost at the temple, and then this month Jesus will be baptized. And
I love it.
It's going to be a really silly thing, but if that was something that people here wanted to take and do, it's so simple because it could start at Easter and it could lead to Pentecost. So that could actually take it so much further. And it's just a really simple thing that families, and I sent it to everybody who came since August 2019. So we've seen them one time since August 2019. They got this donkey letter in the mail from a day of the donkey.
Great idea. I love that. There's so much you could do with that. That's awesome. A couple more ideas is something I mentioned before is doing Wednesday night bedtime Bible stories. Tell kids they can't watch the bedtime story till they get their baths and their jammies, and the whole family can sit on the couch. Maybe children's leaders, maybe you send out some cutout color paper characters that would go along with each week's stories, and they could get those ready and on a Zoom kind of act out the story with you as you read it. And really what's happening is we'd be teaching parents how to do this at home themselves, how they can also be the disciple leader. Let's look at the next slide on some Holy Week things. Pick and pray. I'm going to have Terrence do that in just a minute. Tell us about that. I was picturing, what about a virtual event where families bake some bread or rolls or something together? It'd be a virtual experience. Maybe you could do that on Maundy, Thursday, and it could be something simple like something from a Pillsbury tube, and the families are together baking the rolls, and then you read them in a Maundy, Thursday communion celebration with the bread that they baked for each other, and having the kids serve their mom and dad or grandma and grandpa. What if you worked on a virtual Tenebrae service that kind of like many of us did for the Christmas pageant? What if you sent out readings and families or children and youth read their portion and recorded it and unlit their candle, and then those readings were put together in something that we could celebrate and watch and be a part of on Good Friday? Tell us, Terrence, I gotta know what pick and pray is. Tell me.
So basically, it's pick and pray, call and say. That's what it is. Pick and pray, call and say. And pick and pray, call and say is something that you're going to do during Holy Week. As we understand, Holy Week, one of the critical disciplines that Jesus used during Holy Week is what? Prayer. And so you're going to, this is one where the children can lead the entire fellowship, the entire congregation. It is the children picking a family for that day from Palm Sunday until Easter Sunday, and they're praying for a different family each day. And so it means that it does take some adult supervision in making sure that, hey, they have a family to pray for that day, but it's them picking a family, praying for that family, but also it's them calling that family just to say, hello, how you doing? And we're thinking about you. Because what we know is there have been a lot of people, especially our senior members, our elderly, that have been somewhat distant from some of the virtual activity. So we want to make sure we keep them engaged. It's a way to engage, again, not only the children, but all ages. So you pick a family, you pray for the family, you call them and you say, I love you, I was thinking about you. It doesn't take long, it doesn't take a lot of time or effort, but it is intentional, as Christ was intentional of his love toward us. As it relates to the virtual Stations of the Cross, now we get to get creative with our families. And so it's each family picking or being assigned a Station of the Cross, and they get to be as creative as they want to be, because what they're going to do, they're going to set up their own Station of the Cross. They're going to act it out. They're going to build it out. They're going to crochet it out, whatever they want to do to replicate that Station of the Cross, and them explaining what happened in that Station of the Cross. It can only be about 3 to 5 minutes. It can't be an entire Station of the Cross movie, but it can only be a virtual movie of about 3 to 5 minutes, so that you can then upload it, and then you have an opportunity to run through each of the stations with everybody, as though that family or that group within their bubble has now interpreted that station. If it's something baked, if it's something crocheted, if it's something acted out, but now it is something that becomes tangible, understandable for our students, but also it engages all of our persons in our households, some persons that are around us, but it gets the kids and the children and the youth creative about what really happened around in the entire event of the crucifixion and all of that within Holy Week.
I love it, because again, it is not only creating a special event that people could participate in, it's also causing the people that are doing the recording to actually have to study it themselves.
Yes.
And then you put all of those clips together and put the whole thing together. You could have multiple showings of that. You could even have it on a loop that people come in and come out of. There's so many possibilities, and that's where you could invite family that lives in another state to participate with you. What if you had access to it and you all watched it in a Facebook room together?
That's right. That's right.
Such a great
and
idea.
Stephanie, and one thing that we've noticed in our particular area is we may not have some congregations that are large enough that will want to do all of the stations, and it allows partnerships across the lines of denomination, across fellowships, to be able to do that. And so if we have 4, you have 3, someone else has 2, it allows that fellowship among the saints.
Oh my goodness, and that's even another layer of like you said, a fellowship of coming together. Great idea. Here's a few for Easter itself. I think, and let's look at our Easter slide, but here's one of the great ideas that I got from somebody I was on with in a coaching call. And that was I said, well, or they were asking, how do we do our annual Easter egg hunt? And I said, well, that's a great question. And the lady I was talking with said, well, we had an idea. What if we still did the Easter egg hunt, but it was in the front yard of different church members' lawn, at different church members' home, and you got to go to one lawn, and maybe there was a little activity there, and you went with your family in your car, and then you went to another church member's lawn. Their thinking was it would introduce some families that were maybe empty nesters, or maybe older
Mhm.
folks in the church that still had a space where you could do that, but families just went kind of around the map, and they did a little egg hunting at this house, and then they did a little egg hunting at that house, and maybe at another house they did a little craft. And since you were kind of controlling the numbers, there wouldn't be this mad dash of people, super spreader event. And I just thought that that had multiple layers of fantastic to it, because the family who hosted it could then meet and greet, and you could get to know some new people at the church. Um, and then kind of, kind of go from there. Because some people wonder, why do we do an Easter egg hunt anyway? Well, I usually do it just because of the potential community outreach. And then there's always the gospel presented somewhere. So what if one of the yards, it was simply the resurrection egg story told over and over and over again, and you could do it in safe ways. So I think there's a lot you could potentially do with that. And then there is the infamous Easter sunrise service. So what if that was virtual? Many youth groups do it, but instead you could have it done sort of like Terrence's idea with videoed Stations of the Cross. You could do a virtual sunrise service. And this might be hard if you were a church that's got thousands of people, but if you're a church like most of us, the average size small church, what if while people were participating in the virtual sunrise service, the youth group or children or families was delivering cinnamon rolls to the front porch step of everybody. And after the virtual sunrise service was over, people were invited to go get their little surprise, and y'all came back and everybody jumped on a Zoom and you had coffee and cinnamon rolls together. What if you, instead of, with the need for some COVID safe practices, what if you offered Easter stations throughout your church building, where you can kind of control however many go in at certain times, and they would go around the building. We so often see Stations of the Cross, but what if this was Stations of the Tomb? What if it
Mm.
was the feeling of being in a room and Jesus had just left? And what if one of the other stations was a garden experience? What if one of the stations was a you simulated a road to Emmaus? I think we could even get kind of creative with that. Brandi, what do you think? Any other ideas you might do just for Easter itself?
Yeah, I love all the ideas that are being shared. And I think Pastor Rob Dyer has mentioned a couple times now, like we just need to revisit why we did the Easter egg hunt in the first place. And I actually think this is a great year to really make what we've already done in the past, maybe just as a tradition, even more meaningful. I think one of those things we can do is, a lot of us have these great church properties that aren't being utilized because we're not
Mhm.
really able to meet. So in the same way that, we talked about the parade hunt, one thing that we can do is set up stations. This is what we're going to do. We're going to have a little pathway through our church property that people can go take at a distance with their families, and we'll have gatherings of eggs that they count instead of collecting. And then there will be an upright sign of an egg with a little QR code, and QR codes are way easier than they used to be. So don't be
They
intimidated by
are.
that. You can go on Canva and add it to a graphic, and it's all
Mhm.
free. It's very
Yeah.
easy, but we're going to direct them to parts of the Easter story. So we're going to just take them through the road to the cross and the resurrection through just a walk. So we want to take that and make it really meaningful. One year I built a tomb, and I had the kids visit the tomb, and I will tell you, I did not
Mhm.
expect how terrifying that was going to be for the children. Uh, they definitely were very afraid we were going to find a body, which is the opposite of the story. But that, I think we have this opportunity to make things we've done in the past more meaningful, even if they feel different. And so I would say, like, let's just not shy away from that. Let's really bring that why back into focus. And then once we're past all this, we're going going to have great new traditions, and we're going to be able to make those old traditions that had gotten a little dry or a little stale even more meaningful.
So Brandi, just because you just said that those old traditions that may have gotten a little dry or a little stale, what came to mind is how right now we're talking about Easter, and part of that Easter experience is the Last Supper and the Lord's Supper, and how do we now reinvent, and allow that space to be creative with that. And so I was looking in the chat, and it's critical that you do take those traditional moments as a part of the larger congregation, as a part of our larger Christian calendar, and that we have that happen on a regular, but also make sure that now we dissect those. We even dissect those, and what does it look like to have every person present that was at the Last Supper, and allow someone to speak on behalf of that person and their experience at the Last Supper, and then allow each kid to have their own elements for their own partaking of the Last Supper, because it does say, if you want to be creative, it says this. It doesn't mean you have to do away with the meaning. It means you can add more to the meaning, because now you've dissected it. And so it's with those that we also have to be mindful that we're creative with.
Well, thank you for that, both of you. That was awesome. And I want to make sure we leave time for you to answer some of the questions that have been sent in. Don't forget that Pentecost will follow after that, 50 days after that. And Pentecost this year feels a little earlier than, in my mind, it's always in June, but this year is Sunday, May 23rd. But I think for many of us, the weather would be warmer. And so what if you had an outdoor Pentecost service? It might still be chilly in some of your areas, and so you could gather people's outdoor portable fire pits and set up, because I love fire at Pentecost. Makes sense, right? And so there's all kinds of interesting things that you could be doing. I just wanted to just plant that idea in your mind, to be thinking ahead that Pentecost would be coming. The summer will be here. I think that we're going to begin to feel safer about some of our activities. And so it might be time to get people to start thinking about, hey, maybe we can pull off a vacation Bible school or a vacation Bible camp this summer and make it COVID safe now. You could always roll it back, but plan it for kind of the quote unquote worst case scenario, and then find that things are a little bit safer. And so, and then you can take away things, but plan it safely. But I think we can do it this year. Okay, and then a few little notes, and we'll go to our questions. And so, let's look at our final slide. We just want to kind of go with this. I think what's next? One event a month is fine for right now. Keep track, though, with all of these special events you're doing, keep track of who participates. Follow up. If somebody joins in a Palm Sunday palm parade, or maybe you have a virtual palm cross making class, you send out palm leaves and you show them how to make their own palm crosses, because there's a trick to it, but I know it can be done. Keep track of who participates. Follow up. Just because they're virtual doesn't mean you can't follow up with people. Have greeters for these events. When you do online worship, when you do online Zoom parties, activities with kids, make sure that there's interaction going on in the chat room intentionally, just like we have today. And then last but not least, anyone that participates today, if you'd like one, you get a free 30-minute coaching call with me or with one of the other teams. So just type your name and email address, and Sean's going to capture all of that. And we'll get back with you. And one of our team will kind of touch base with you, and we'll get some phone calls scheduled. And it would be something that you got some ideas today, but you want to know how are they going to fit in my church's, my ministry's context, and we'd be happy to get that scheduled with you. So let's look at some of the questions we had from today. Let's see. Robert, my friend Robert Dyer, alternatives to the classic Easter egg hunt. Is it time to replace that tradition? I don't know. What do y'all think?
I have one for that. Instead of the Easter egg hunt, we have tried what's called a resurrection scavenger hunt. And so you take the same idea, you're hunting for eggs, versus now you're hunting for items from the resurrection. And so whether that is done virtually, you're having them in a space and you're looking for certain things around your home, or if you're putting these items from in different locations around town and you're looking for them in a safe way. But a resurrection scavenger hunt would allow you to get away from the whole egg idea, and maybe pour into more events that are Holy Week and Resurrection Week centered.
Yeah, great idea. Brandi, this sounds great for you. What are some different ways to initiate connections with missing in action people?
So I think a really great thing we can actually do in the next month is get that list of people who have come once in the last year, or however far you want to go back. I went to 2019 August, and you can go ahead and print all of those names and addresses if you have a database system, or if you have to hand letter those onto envelopes. And then as the month progresses, everybody who comes, you go ahead and write them a card that says, hey, we loved having you. We can't wait to see you for Easter. Then send those out. Everybody at the end of the month who hasn't come in that 4 weeks, or we might even have 6 weeks, but anybody who hasn't come, go ahead and send them missing in action. Like, we miss you. Like, we can't wait to see you for Easter. So either way, everybody's getting a personal touch. Everybody's getting a personal invitation to Easter. And you know that nobody has slipped through the cracks. Nobody missed this letter. Like I said, I'm sending out a lot of snail mail. We have a texting ability. We use a church program called Text in Church. And so we do a lot of texting through that. It doesn't allow them to text back the whole group, which is good, because I usually send about 300 text messages at once, and that's a big group text. So we use that program, and that's kind of when we want to reach out to families and tell them we're doing exciting things. So the things like Sunday Fun Day, that's how I really want to make sure everybody is getting that personal touch before Easter.
Yeah, my friend Krista, who is in Mequon, Wisconsin, where it's really cold. I've been there in January and February before. She asks, how do you send out the text? Terrence, you might answer this too. Is it through a church data system? You know, I know a lot of people use like the Remind Me app and things like that. And do you need permission to text folks, or did they sign up? Because there is some of that safe sanctuary happening now. So how do you?
So what we make sure that we keep safe sanctuary, because it is ours to ensure that our parents feel safe, our children feel safe, and those that are volunteering in the space feel safe, as not only we're interacting, but as we're communicating. And so before any communication is sent out we use what's called the Realm app, and all of that information is put into Realm. And as an administrator, I have access to be able to go in and shoot it to that particular group just from my phone. And just like you, Brandi, I have to give them permission to send something back, or I'll get, hundreds of text messages all day long. But permission is key. And if they find some, and so I have what I call watch saints. They are watchmen and watchwomen on the wall, and they are looking to see if somebody didn't receive the text. And so if they find that there are gaps, I in turn will call that family, have conversation. Do they need to update their information, or is there a change of phone or whatever their contact information is, or is it a new child that has since joined our fellowship, and their information now needs to be added. But we keep everybody in the loop just to make sure we keep everything above board, and we do maintain safe sanctuary. We never want to contact any child or youth without the proper guardian or parents understanding what that communication is. And to say the least, the students are getting the communication, and the parent is getting the same thing at the same time.
Well, our last question for today, and there could be so many others, and if you get to sign up, or if you sign up for the free 30-minute coaching call, we can flesh the more questions out with you. But the last question, there's a couple of folks that sort of asked a version of this, and that is basically, how do you get kids to engage with Zoom? How do you get them to join the online thing? Because I've heard some youth and children's folks say they've got great attendance and people participating. And then I'll hear some say, oh my gosh, I can't get kids to Zoom at all. They're Zoomed out. So what would your best tips for that be?
I would probably say, if you're engaging and you have to keep it upbeat, and you have to have lots of energy in the space. If you had energy going into COVID, when you were in your physical space, that same level of energy has to be turned up 100 times in order for them to want to come to the space. We already know this. If it were boring before COVID and they weren't coming, you're going to have the same type of response. And if this is what I always make sure I do, regardless of the activity, regardless of the space, I always do an after event activity check, not with the parent, but with the student. Why did you come? Why did you want to come? Why do you keep coming back? Or, I didn't see you. Why didn't you come? Well, Miss Terrence, it's boring. I don't want to be there. And well, what can I do better? What can we do better? And asking them what we can do better. And so, since we've gotten lots of ideas, and we've had to change our thinking as adults, because I'm not a youth or a child in 2021 during a pandemic. I have to make sure that I'm thinking and listening to that space that they're wanting to be in. If I have to move from Zoom to house party, if I have to move from house party, I have to look at the platforms that they're using, making sure, again, we keep safe sanctuary, but what is it that's keeping them engaged, especially at this length of time? So that would be my recommendations.
Brandi, what about you, sister?
Yeah, well, we definitely use the texting service for reminders, because parents are busy, and that's who I'm texting. With kids, I don't send them text messages because they don't have phones. So I send a text message before our Zoom call. And then, like Terrence said, we are the thermostats. So we've got to bring like the silliness from the second they jump on the call. You have to use your whole screen, and you want, I think a really fun thing is to use your background, bring props. Whiteboards do not work. They do not show up. So that has been a big fail for me a couple of times. And just make sure it's big. We've done a lot of competitions, which have been really fun. We did a bracket during March, right after what would have been the Final Four, all the basketball stuff, because we're in a big basketball area. So since we didn't, since everything was different, we did best dinosaurs, we did best Pokemon. We just kept it crazy all summer long. And that was a big summer thing for us. We had the best luck with the preschoolers. So we had open play days where we just texted families and said, hey, we're going to be playing with Legos. We did not have a lot of luck with elementary students, but the times we did was when it was high competition. It was very interactive. It was very fun and very in your face. And there was a winner and there was a loser. Nothing is worse to a fourth grade boy than not having a winner and a loser. So with elementary, we just kept it big and entertaining and competitive. And with preschool, we kept it silly and open, and they want to show you all their Lego creations. So it's kind of a grueling hour for you, but you're just, yes, I love Minecraft. But it was fun. We loved our Zoom time, and we'll bring that back for this summer probably.
Right. Well, my friends, I have a feeling you might still have some ideas and you might still have some questions. And so go ahead and email any one of the three of us. We'll keep the conversation going. Sean's put our email addresses in the chat, but it's Stephanie.Caro at ministryarchitects.com, Brandi.Kirkland at ministryarchitects.com, and Terrence Vickerstaff at ministryarchitects.com. And you'll see him again in the chat room. Again, you can put your name and email address real quick here if you'd like to get that 30-minute call, and we'll get back with you. Mark your calendar for March 11th for a volunteer recruiting webinar with Bryant Johnson, one of our senior consultants, and Sarah Bailey, our super duper director of our search department. And so you can put that on your calendar, and it'll be all about volunteer recruiting, because whether it's a pandemic or not, we still need volunteers, and we're going to have to start getting volunteers to say yes for what we have coming. So thank you for spending time with us today. It was such a blessing to us. I'm going away with tons of ideas, and so I just want to say thank you, especially to Terrence for being here, for Brandi for being here, and Sean, who is behind the scenes. Thank you all. Thank you out there for just serving kids, serving teenagers, serving families, serving your church, serving God like you do. Keep it up. Don't give up. It is a struggle right now, but it's so worth it. Anyway, blessings on your head. Take care, everyone.